spicy this morning. Heck yeah. Good morning, guys, and welcome to today's video. So, just kind of cruising around in the Mustang. I'm actually looking for a good spot to get some pictures today. Doing nothing crazy. However, I went ahead and made somewhat of an impulse buy. Now, the culmination of this particular buy probably is going to come to fruition for a good, probably at least a year. I need to be able to move, get a garage, and settle down a little bit more before I can commit to this level of build. However, I went ahead and bought some rods and pistons for the GT500. So I ran across a deal I could not pass up. One of those, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys those in a minute. First, I want to go ahead and get some pictures of this thing though, and then I also want to kind of go over the future plan for the GT500. So I've got some stuff I want to do. There's some mods that are like, absolutely I want to do. And there's a couple things holding me back. And I'm gonna go ahead and explain that in a minute. And it will cover kind of the basics of what I'm doing, where the build is going, and kind of what I need to do to get there. So without further ado, let's get some pictures real quick, and then we'll talk some specs, show you the rods and pistons I picked up. We'll kind of go over what the plan is for the motor build and a couple other things on the car. So hope you enjoy. Today is, again, nothing crazy, no crazy pulls or anything like that, but just a good old time chilling out with the GT500. What do you guys think? Something like that? Go ahead and check out Instagram to see the final products, but I think it looks pretty sick. I don't know about you. All right, we are back at the house. So let's go ahead and talk about a couple things. I'm trying to think of the best way to cover everything in kind of in one video. Let's talk about the current setup, what its shortcomings are, and then kind of the way forward. So the current setup is a Gen 2 VMP supercharger. It's 2.3 liter, and I mean, there you have it right there. It's running the 3-inch upper pulley, which is nothing really impressive. It's only putting out about 14 to 15 pounds of boost, and I think it dropped down to 14 once the cats went bye-bye, because there's a little less restriction in there. And we're making about 696 wheel horsepower. Damn. So honestly, it's pretty much the max safe effort on these cars. Anything below 700 is really not pushing it that hard. You get a good amount of power, and it's a little short. It's whatever. So the immediate step forward for this car, I want to do the next size pulley down, and that's going to bring me to tuning though. So this car was tuned by Pro Dyno, and it was not tuned for this exact setup. However, after I've done a lot of research, it is safe for a couple different tiers of setup, essentially. So it was originally tuned on 100 octane race gas with a 2.4 pulley pushing about 23 pounds of boost. And basically all the pulley size is going to do is going to adjust the air-fuel ratios. So that air-fuel ratio is about 11.5 to 1, and it made 700 and I think 89 wheel horsepower, something like that, right around there. So that was the previous setup. I've never experienced that. That was the previous owner, and he took it to the track I think once or twice on that setup. Had some issues, and that was the end. That was the end of it. The car never really went on that setup again. When he sold it, he put the 3-inch pulley on there, pulleyed it down, kind of babied it a little bit, and that's what we have now. So I took it to the dyno, made 696, 93 octane, and this is where it gets interesting. I did not realize the amount of timing that was in this car is actually about 21, 22 degrees, and that's kind of spicy for 91, or so I thought. Looked into Kenny Bell's tunes and a couple other people on the forums, started at basically Google searching, you know, this timing range, and it is spicy timing. However, because the pulley is bigger, the air-fuel ratio now is richer because it's still adding the same amount of fuel, but it's not getting as much boost. So it's about a 10.9 to 1, which is what my gauge reads, and that seems about right. So on that boost level with that air-fuel ratio and everything, that's actually a pretty safe setup. So I don't need to worry about tuning right now. Now the next adjustment that I want to make to this, I want to pulley down, and we're going to pulley down to the 2.7 pulley. It's a little smaller than this. In theory, it should put us around 17 to 18 pounds of boost, so a little bit more. And that should net and this is completely ballpark, I don't know, I'm thinking it's going to net a couple horsepower, and we should be around 730 to the wheels. That's where I'd like to be. So once again, still safe for the setup. However, because we're going to be going slightly leaner now, I don't really trust 93 octane at that point with the amount of timing in it. So it's going to force me to run either, well, basically it's either race gas or an octane booster. I'm going to run an octane booster because race gas is like, it's a lot per gallon. It's like 60 bucks for a 5-gallon pail, or I can run Torco, which will get me to 100 octane for 10 gallons with one can. That's $23, and you just add that per thing. So I don't drive this crazy. It's not a daily driver, so I'm okay with making that little cost, and I know that it will eat the plugs a little faster, but again, I'm okay with that. I understand what I'm accepting with that. So that'll push this car to the next level as far as I'm concerned. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and I want to do bigger and better things. So the plan forward immediately, I want to do a fuel system. Right now we are running stock fuel pumps with dual VMP booster pumps, and they're out in the trunk. I'm gonna show you right here. And basically those two boxes right there, each one of those is a fuel booster pump. Now you only need one of these. The reason there's two is basically for redundancy, to make sure everything is happy. So once again, on the forums, people have been able to push the stock fuel system with regular either race gas or pump gas pretty far. We're talking like plus 800 rear wheel horsepower with just injector upgrades. However, I want to be able to run E85 in the future. And the reason I want to go E85 is that should enable me to, one, keep costs down in terms of fuel. It also burns cooler. It'll kind of keep everything a little happier. One of the drawbacks is you have to do more frequent oil changes because the E85 can bleed past the cylinders, get into the oil, and that's going to wear bearings out faster and stuff like that. So you need to make sure you keep up on maintenance a little more. But once again, not a big deal. These are sacrifices I'm willing to make to get that extra power. So with the E85 is going to require new tuning. That's when I'm going to get this thing retuned. Once we get a fuel system in here, I'm thinking Division X or 4. Haven't decided yet. Probably Division X because it seems more plug and play. We'll get to that when the time comes. So the Division X, I don't know what kind of power we're going to get with the 85. It already is running kind of high on the timing side, so I don't think it's going to be as big of an increase as if it was just straight normal 93 timing, which is in the 18 to 19 degree range. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, what I really want to do to this car, and unfortunately it's something I just can't do until we get it built, is going to be camshafts. I want the sound of cams so bad. Like, that's the number one thing I want to do this car. I want to skip the fuel system, skip pulleying, skip race gas, all that crap. I just want cams. However, to be able to do cams in this car is ridiculous. Basically, like, so this valve cover and everything comes off no problem. Everything I've read though says this side is the problem child, because you have this brake booster right here, and basically that valve cover does not want to come up with that thing in the way. I've read a couple different, I've done a decent amount of research into this, and basically the easiest way that they say to do this is either drop the motor at the bottom of the K-member, which is an option, or basically you got to pull it. You got to either remove the whole brake cylinder area. There's a whole mess of crap you got to do to be able to get to the cams in this thing. And at that point, I started thinking about maybe I'll just fork up the extra cash, have somebody else do it. And honestly, it just doesn't seem worth pulling the motor to just do cams and get a minimal power gain, because I'm already like, we're already at talking like 730-ish to the wheels. That's really, I can't go much more with this setup and not risk destroying the rods or pistons in the bottom end. There are some people that have done crazy amounts of power, like Cody54 on Instagram. He freaking pushed his car to 900 and something horsepower on the stock bottom end. He's running 85, very specific tuning, and only did a couple runs with it. I don't know who knows how long that would have lasted. I'm trying to go for a little more longevity on this setup, so got to build the bottom end. I've come to the conclusion that if we're going to put all the effort into doing cams, and basically if I'm going to do cams, I want to be able to refresh the timing set, which sits along the front, oil pump gears. Not that it's super required on GT500s, but it'll give me a warm and fuzzy knowing that there's some billet parts in here. And not to mention running the two-step, it's putting a strain on a lot of stuff, and I really want to make sure that we have a safe bottom end. So that led me to looking into bottom end stuff. And I ran across VMP's article on basically budget building a GT500 bottom end, and their setup put down 931 to the rear wheel, 931 rear wheel horsepower with a VMP Gen 2R. So this is the Gen 2. The 2R is a little bit better of a blower. However, I think we can get pretty similar results with this blower. And the end goal that I would like to see is basically maxing out this blower with some room to go to maybe a Gen 3 down the road if I really want to get rowdy. So the overall setup is going to be the rods and pistons, which I just picked up. The pistons, I haven't even gotten into the pistons yet. So I haven't even gotten into the rods and pistons we set up, and that's where this whole thing is leading to. Sorry for the very long story. Basically, on Marketplace, everyone and their mom apparently is getting rid of GT500s this generation. I don't know why. Maybe so the next gen's coming down in cost. Who knows? But with that is also coming a lot of builds that just never came to fruition. So I found a set of used rods and pistons, only in a setup for about 1,500 miles. The gentleman that took them out is basically trying to go to a higher compression ratio and doesn't want to deal with these, which works out for me. I was able to get them for basically just paying for the rods, which are 100% fine. It's a Manley H-beam rod. They've got ARP rod bolts. I don't know if they're the 2000 or if they're the regular. If they're the regular rod bolts, they're good to about 900 wheel horsepower. But if you go to the 2000s, the same rod is actually capable of close to 1200. So I'm probably going to just go ahead and buy the extra ARP 2000 rod bolts. This way I know that I have a stout bottom end. Got a set of King main bearings. I got a MMR billet crank sprocket, and what I'm doing right now is I'm starting to collect pieces to build this motor. I'm trying to do it as economically friendly as possible because I do not have a lot of money to dump into this thing. So this is going to be timeline a while. The goal for next year is pretty much to get this thing on E85, retuned, have everything happy, so that when I do eventually pull the motor and do cams, all I got to worry about is that and not have to try and tune for everything all at once. That's the plan anyway. So as far as bottom end build, like I was saying earlier, VMP made a 931 rear wheel horsepower with a budget build. Basically, they built the bottom end, raised the compression ratio, the cams dropped it back down a little bit, ran L&M NSR cams, VMP Gen 2R E85. Exactly what I'm planning on doing to this. We have a 10% lower. I believe they had a 15% lower, so I might have a little less boost. I have the 2.4 pulley just kind of hanging out. That's going to go on there. And then we got the cams that I want to do. Again, want to eventually figure it out. I don't know if I want to do custom spec yet or what. Cams, bottom end. The pistons I also picked up are JE pistons, and they're a flat top piston instead of the dish that comes stock in these, and they're going to boost compression ratio to about 10-1. So thinking about it, getting the compression ratio up a little bit, these come stock at 8.7-1, which is significantly lower. We should net some more power there. And then I'm also going to go ahead and add the cams, which should lower that compression ratio just a little bit down to hopefully around a 9.7-1 is kind of where I'm going. And that particular compression ratio, I don't really know. That's, again, just kind of pulling it on my butt. That's what I'm guessing. So that's basically the plan forward for this car. I want to go ahead and show you the rods and pistons I picked up just so you can take a look at them. And the end goal when this comes out, there's a lot of stuff I want to do. I want to get the clutch refreshed. It's not slipping or anything, but if it's going to come out, it might as well. I want to do as much of this work myself as possible. You've seen me doing a lot of the stuff on this channel, and I enjoy doing my own stuff because I get to know that exactly what's done to it. And I figure as long as you're extremely specific with measurements, you have the right documentation, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be able to do this. So I want to do a clutch refresh. We're going to pop off the headers and get those wrapped so they are nice heat wrapped, kind of get some more heat out of the engine bay, and just kind of work forward in that general direction. So let me show you these rods and pistons we picked up and kind of talk a little more on that. All right, so this is what we're looking at. So these are what I picked up. These are the JE pistons right here and the Manley H-beam rod, as you can see right there. So these are a used piston and rod. However, they weren't used very long, 1,500 miles, what the guy said. If the piston turns out to not be good for reuse, however, I don't see why that would be. It's got very minimal wear marks on it, to be honest. Everything looks good. Obviously, we got to get new rings and all that stuff, but that's what it looks like. So nothing too wild. And this right here is going to be the money makers for getting more power out of this car. Still got the old bearings in there, so new bearings. Like I was saying, if anybody knows if these are ARP 2000 rod bolts, let me know. You can kind of see right there, just says ARP, nothing super specific. And then in the bottom end, we have our JE with our serial number. I went ahead and looked these up, contacted JE themselves, asked about what they had to say, gave me the build sheet. So these are legit, nothing too crazy there. And this is going to be at the heart of our build. Obviously, we're going to be getting new rings, new bearings, all that fun stuff. So pretty much what I bought these for. If you want to look up the price of Manly H-beams, I bought them for that. And the pistons just kind of came along. So if they're good, we'll use them. I'm not against getting new pistons in the event these somehow check out of spec. If there's a problem that turns out to be with these. So once again, nothing too wild, but the parts are here. Those are the pistons and rods. And once again, this is a very small, they're a small part of everything that needs to get done. The big thing I'm looking for right now is a reliable shop to, I'm starting to do research basically to figure out who I can trust to get the bottom end. I'm either going to have them build it or I'm going to do that myself. I haven't decided yet, but I definitely need to find a reliable shop to get all the honing done and get the block prepped for when I put everything back together. So I'm kind of trying to get all my ducks in a row before we go full send, pull the motor, and do all that work. I also need to get a garage or some kind of stable area to be able to pull this thing out. I'm not doing it out in that parking lot, that's for sure. I'll tell you that right now. And if you guys want to know what I'm willing to go through to basically get reliability with camshafts and get some more power out of them, this is it. So the goals for next year, like I'm saying, hopefully get on E85, get all the tuning squared away, we get some more power there, see what kind of times you can run, and then it's motor pull time. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to make sure I keep everything updated. I'm going to put together a engine build sheet. When it's all said and done, it's going to be basically an Excel document of every single thing that it has this motor, or that's been done to this car, to this motor. So if you guys want to follow along in the build, you'll be able to. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Definitely a lot going on. Pretty stoked, in all honesty. This is set the ball in motion to get things done. So if you guys have any more suggestions or anything like that, let me know. As far as the piston choice and whether to use pistons or new, don't even bother. I've looked into this. We'll figure out when the time comes based on how they spec out if we need new or used pistons. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy and have a good day.